Good evening, everyone. I hope you are having a good week and that you are starting your weekend with good energy and enjoying the nice weather. Welcome to Happening Multicultural Community Activations. My name is Paola Gomez. I'm Muse Arts Program Director, and it is an honor to once again be here with you all to engage ourselves in conversations that are deep and that are part of our day-to-day experience. Happening Multicultural is the first and only festival that is created and produced entirely by newcomer, immigrant, and refugee artists. Here we create a space for us, the artists, the creators, the dreamers, to share our knowledge, our experience, and to share with our communities this, our art, our artistry, that is not only our passion, but it's also our way to contribute to the well-being of entire communities and society. Today is very special. And it is special because we are about to engage in very important conversations with one of my favorite people. And her name is Claudia Arana. Claudia is a curator, a visual artist, and also an immigrant to Canada. A very talented woman who I admire very much. So I am very pleased and very happy to welcome Claudia into this space to facilitate the process and to do what she does best, which is establish conversations and connections with artists, particularly artists that are part of different diasporas. Claudia, welcome. And by the way, before I start, I think I want to honor the space that we are having here, and honoring also my friend Claudia, who also is carrying life with her. So I want to honor you, Claudia, and honor the space that we're holding by recognizing the territory first, recognizing the territory as the territory of indigenous communities. In my case, I am located in the territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit. I also want to recognize, and here is where I acknowledge my friend Claudia as well, I recognize mothers, I recognize Mother Earth for all the resources that we receive, and I recognize mothers and people that bring life as the creators and the contributors of societies. I welcome you all to engage in conversations that are moved by common care, by taking care of each other and by supporting each other. So once again, Claudia, you are welcome to be here. We're extremely happy that you are joining us at Happening Multicultural.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you for that beautiful, beautiful introduction. And I'm very, very happy and grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me to have these amazing chats with different artists, which I admire profoundly. So now I would like to first introduce Akshata Naik. So Akshata, welcome. Hi. So before I tell you a little bit more about Akshata, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. So as Paula mentioned, I'm Claudia Arana. I'm an independent curator, a visual artist, and I'm also an immigrant to this land. I have moved to Canada 5 years ago, and I'm truly, truly grateful and honored to be here and to be able to continue my practice and continue to grow and to meet wonderful people along the way. Since I moved to Canada, my work has been focused on curating exhibitions that serve as a platform for artists from different backgrounds to showcase their work, to have the visibility that they haven't had yet for multiple reasons. And it's been, for me, very, very important to try to support them as I also continue to grow and to understand the place that we are in and to understand the system and the art sector in Canada. So it's been an exciting journey for me. And today, as I mentioned before, we have Akshata Naik with us, and is an artist. Akshata is an artist and a contemporary educator, researcher, and administrator based in Toronto. And we had the opportunity to meet each other at ArtworxTO a couple of years back. I remember very much meeting with her, and I guess we immediately had a very, very exciting and good energy and good connection. And yeah, and of course, we will let you know more about the projects and what we have been developing together and the projects in which we have collaborated. But I also want to mention that she was born and raised in Mumbai. Ashtaka has lived in Vadodara and the UK. Her works reflect upon her lived experiences of moving homes, cities, and countries through a lens of immigration, war, displacement, home, and belonging. She works towards co-creating with her viewers an immersive experience and interactive art installations, which consist of drawing, painting, ephemeral temporal sculptures, and art in the virtual reality. So Ashtaka, welcome.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for that lovely introduction. And thank you for having me over today at this event. I'm extremely excited for being part of Muse Arts Happening Festival 2021 and to be a part of this larger family of immigrants that we all belong to now. So thank you for having me over.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And one of the things that I really like about Happening in which is it's a festival in which I have the pleasure to collaborate also in prior years, is that it feels so comfortable and it feels so at home to be here. So I right now I feel like I am at home chatting with a great friend and artist that I admire. So I hope that you all feel the same way. I invite people to grab a coffee, sit back. It's Friday. We made it through the week. And it hasn't been easy, definitely. There are many circumstances that are pushing us towards, difficult moments. And I think that if we have the opportunity, I invite you to sit back and enjoy this wonderful time. So Ashtaka, I don't know if, I recall, I think it was probably 2 years or almost 3 years ago that we met at ArtworxTO.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Because I came to Canada in 2017 and 2018, early 2018 is when I was introduced to ArtworxTO. And I think that's where we met in one of the meetings, as you also sit on our gallery committees. So yes, clearly it has been over 3 years now. It feels such a long time that we know each other.
I know, yeah. So for those that are not familiar with ArtworxTO, it's an arts organization located in Etobicoke area, and they do have an amazing programming, and they create wonderful events and activities for the community to engage, and it's all around the art. And yeah, I have had the pleasure to be part of the steering committee and to collaborate in the exhibitions and the programming and the different elements that they offer. And that's how we met. So it's an amazing organization. So now moving more into you, Ashtaka, and your work, can you tell us how you started your artistic practice, a little bit of the early beginnings back in Mumbai when you started to study? What was going on in your head? What was going on in your mind? What make you, I don't know, take the decision to say, okay, this is what I want to do. I really want to pursue art.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go a little bit more in the past and just acknowledge my parents, because I owe it big time to them. It's very unusual even today in South Asian cultures to for people or for their children to pursue career in arts, and especially in fine arts, which we all know doesn't come with a very stable career options or a paycheck at the end of the month. However, as I said earlier, I owe this big time to my parents, especially my dad, who since I was a kid has recognized the skills or my interest in art, and has always pushed me and encouraged me to pursue it as a career. Even as a kid, I remember that he would take me around to visit different galleries, take me around to meet different artists that he knew. Not that he had, a very great understanding of arts, but he had a great, he's a great art audience and art lover. So he kind of picked brains for people, and took me to all of those people, introduced me to this amazing teachers in my life and professors in my life that I met through him in my early days, or as a kid myself, as a teenager in Mumbai. And through one of my teachers or mentors in Mumbai, I came to understanding of arts, fine arts as a career, or I could have a career in studio practice or painting and drawing. And that's when I came to know about this university where I studied. I did my bachelor's and master's from the Maharaja Sayajirao University, which is in Baroda. It's also called the Baroda School of Art, and is very recognized in India as a school of art, since a lot of international artists came out of that institution, such as Ghulam Mohammad Sheikh or KG Subramaniam, Nasreen Mohammadi, to name a few. And Baroda as a city itself is hugely respected in terms of its arts and culture. It's a small city. It's not like a metro city, so everyone knows everyone. You have that very great relationships and networks within the arts community, that you just sip a tea or a coffee at the end of the class every day, or every evening you just meet around a corner to sip chai. And that's the culture of the whole city. So it's a very artistic place, which I had the privilege and luck to be a part of. And that's where my artistic career began. I would say I just stepped into this arts world through my bachelor's in university then.
That's great. That sounds like an amazing place to be honest. Like to feel, people in a very intimate setting, and having the opportunity to learn. And it's great. It's great that you share like how your family support you. And I guess choosing an artistic career or practice is sometimes is not easy for everyone, and it's great always to have that support. I'll say myself as a visual artist as well, that study also back home in Colombia, visual arts. I kind of share the same family situation, in which even though my parents were not very knowledgeable in terms of arts, they did support my interest, and I was able as well to pursue my bachelor back then. And I remember my grandmother, my grandma on my father's side. We went to visit many, many galleries and art exhibitions. And so I guess it's very interesting how there's someone kind of in the family that really supports you and push you to reach those dreams. That's wonderful to know. Great, that's amazing. Do you have any, and I have a couple of images that I know that you have shared with me, and I'll share in a minute. But before we move there, I want you to tell everyone and to share with all of us a little bit about your work. Like, what is your work about? And I think I mentioned a little bit already when I introduced you, but for sure, like, what are your interests? What are your inspirations? And then maybe I'll share an image which is from an earlier work, and you can let us know also a little bit about this work.
Yeah, yeah, and just connecting those dots back, I think when I moved to Baroda, I moved from Mumbai, from Bombay to Baroda, which is like a different city, um, and it's in the northwestern part of India, in a state called Gujarat. And at the age of 19, that was my first time stepping out of my comfort zone. Going away from my parents, going away from my home, from leaving my friends and family, away, and then starting this new life, and that too in arts. It was all a little overwhelming, but at the same time, I started gathering objects, and my work kind of began there. However, I should anticipate this thing and acknowledge that for 4 years, while I was into my undergrads, I kept on exploring and experimenting a lot in terms of concepts and themes, and mediums, and exploring different ideas and techniques. So I truly believe that it wasn't until my master's that I truly got into something that I felt closely, that's something that I could resonate my experience with, and my experience of migration, my experience of moving from one home to another. And I've lived in several homes so far in past decade. I've changed homes, I guess, every year on an average. I've lived with my friends, I've lived in shared spaces. So that really triggered that whole understanding around displacement, understanding around leaving your home, leaving a space that you're comfortable in, and finding something new all the time. How temporary that feeling of comfort is. You're constantly evolving, you're constantly finding, you're running behind that comfort, and the moment you get that, you kind of just move away from that. So that was my feeling, that kind of translated into a lot of my works during masters, where I had I painted in watercolors and acrylics, a lot of mundane objects. So yeah, that's one of my pictures from, I believe, 2013, and that's my studio, master's studio in the university, where you see some of my works hung on the wall. So as I said, I used to paint a lot of objects surrounding, my life, and it was very still life based works. You see that, yeah, in one of those images, you'll see a chair, which I painted from 4 different angles. It was just, I was so obsessed to that capturing of those objects, in details, and in a very photographic way as well. I photographed these objects, and then kind of played around with distortion, and painting it, not in a very realistic manner, but adding some kind of an abstraction to it, in terms of how I deal with the background, or how I deal with the surrounding. And that also talks about the distortion that happens in our life at times, when we are just concentrated into one thing, but there's so much else that is happening outside of that core, that you are struggling to understand. And yeah, that's exactly how my work began, around migration, travel experiences, displacement, memory, bringing in home, which is temporary again, understanding what was safe space for my own self and for others around me. So that's a little bit how I began with, and yeah.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. When you shared the image with me, I was so intrigued and what is this about? And I think that it's something that is very important for artists to kind of acknowledge their early steps, and because when time goes by and then you look back, you remember a lot of things and you say, well, yeah, I still have this interest, or I'm still working around, I don't know, this theme, or there's something about that particular point of view that still kind of remains.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to see this. I have another image which is beautiful.
Yeah, this is so right after I did my master's, I should again say that I've been really lucky in life to have gotten some amazing people, have met some amazing, wonderful people who've guided me through my career so far. And, those relationships have built me to get where I am today, a little bit at least, that I can brag about or be proud of. And one of those things is this teaching job that I started right after my university graduation. I was teaching drawing and painting at Parul University, which is in Gujarat, and that was my little office space where in times between two lectures, I would just set up a little studio space for myself and do some drawings and just pen down my ideas and things like that. So I had one of my colleagues photograph that for me. And yeah, those bring back really some good memories back in India that I had. And with that, I would like to remember all the struggles that people are facing at the moment in India, and I hope that um, everyone just comes out of this very soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of. In fact, I do have some of my works here. I don't know. I should just kind of squeeze in my, yeah, right there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, this feels so close to the works that I have seen recently.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. So
And
this photo, do you remember when, like, what year?
yeah, this photo is from 2015, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
my work kind of tends to change a lot, but I always feel that there's some kind of a connection that exists in how I deal with each of those subjects that, and it's kind of, it also relates to how my life has changed a lot. From being in Mumbai to moving to Baroda to, visiting UK, to going on a residency, having experiences there, and now being in Canada as an immigrant myself for over 4 years. There has been a lot of change in my life, and that constantly reflects in my work. But there are times when I just go back and forth in all of these, images, drawings that I've done, and they kind of come back in different ways to me, and some do not. And so I just kind of hang around and see when they come back to me.
Yeah. I'm very attracted to this image over here.
Uh-huh.
And it is so exciting to even look at that because we're gonna talk about that work in a couple of minutes.
Sure.
But it's amazing how an image can tell you through details so much about what's happening right at that moment, which I find very, very exciting. That's amazing, Ashtaka. Beautiful image. And then I'm very, very interested to knowing more about this image, which I assume this comes a little bit later.
Yeah. This is in 20 later part of 2015, 2016, when I was on a residency at De Montfort University in UK, and through again as I said, I've met some amazing people in all this time in the journey, in life. And one of our alumni back in university has set up an organization, an arts organization, and they also have a gallery called ArtCore UK. So I'm giving a shout out to our team ArtCore, who have been a great support in my career. And it was through them that I got my first international solo show. And this was a part of that, which was the show was called A Piece of Peace. And this particular work is called Do Not Target Me, and that came out of my personal experiences of moving around in UK as a woman of color, as a young woman of color, I must say. And also all the terrorism that was going on across Europe, in UK, in France, the Charlie Hebdo thing that had happened. And I was completely overwhelmed throughout my travel. And I felt I should accept that I did feel unsafe at many times, while I was traveling alone. And it was during this time that I had, I was looking for some shift in my work. I was gathering images. I was photographing some, things around myself during the travel, the objects, and I was reading a lot of newspaper. And these were the images that I came across during that times in newspaper. And I had just kind of made some cutouts and collage, and I wanted to enlarge it and have it at a larger scale, something that goes beyond the frame. So you see the same images in the frame, but it goes beyond the frame, to just express how it felt during that times. And there's this image with a bullet shot in a glass, and those images of protests in France, and those were all kind of very interesting. But at the same time, I felt kind of myself being a part of it, because it was all happening at the same time. I was traveling alone in these places for the first ever time. And I just thought of bringing in those images, those experiences through this work. And that's about that work.
Wow. It's like I immediately, when I saw the title, that it's Don't Target Me, right?
Yeah.
I immediately thought, yeah, there's something very strong going on with this work. And yeah, I mean, it's great that it was a way for you to, in a way, express and cope with the feelings that you were having around that time. At the same time, I think that this work almost become a document, right? Like a support document of your own lived experience and how you felt. And I think that because of the title that you choose and how you're expanding, going beyond the frame, right? Like when you have emotions and or these situations are really going beyond the borders, beyond the limits. It's a very wonderful, I'll say, almost like an analogy of that situation. And it's something that, I mean, sadly, in a way, people can resonate, because I feel that the whole idea of targeting can come from so many like different perspectives. There are so many reasons why we or different cultures or different people can feel the same way. I think it's very inviting. I think that it's something that comes from a very personal place, but at the same time allows people from, I don't know, like from a wide range of cultures and to actually, resonate with a feeling like that. So I think that's wonderful. It's a wonderful work.
Thank you. Thanks, Claudia. And I would like to just emphasize on, like, if you just zoom in through this image, you will find those little pieces of brown tape that I've used to stick these, large things together. And all of this was like the first time. It was very unlike my work. So I was myself discovering my own self with all these experiences and new things around. And that just feels as if I was, kind of, bringing in those memories together. It's hard to be in that space, but you have no option but to be in that space and experience what things around you. Um, yeah. As I see this image myself now, after so many years, it just brings back so many memories to me, and it's kind of traveling back in time and just thinking of that space. Thanks for showing this.
No, thank you for sharing. Like I'm sure it wasn't like an easy moment for you when you were creating this. But what I do find, and now once we move forward with more of your work and recent projects, I can see that you are keeping that idea of multiplicity, of kind of reiterating the idea over and over and over and over to actually make the point of, okay, this is big, this is so large, like, and I think that's something that we will see on your that we're seeing on your work later on, right? Like that idea of the whole repetition and kind of reiteration. It's very strong in your project. So it's great to see here kind of the early beginnings of that. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. Okay, now we're going to move into a project which I'm truly a fan of this work. And okay, I'm gonna let you first tell us a little bit more about the project, and we can also let people know about how is this project growing and where is this going, which is something that I'm very also excited about. So yeah.
Sure. So this work is called Bloody Boats, and I've the first time I did this installation was again for Artcore Gallery in UK when they offered me second solo show in 2016, and I traveled back, and the only thing I carried along was 10 kg bag, like a travel bag full of these paper boats from India. And it was so intriguing at the same time, like as you said, like the whole idea of multiplicity, as I'm myself engaged into creation process of creating those boats, I just realized how into that work I am, or at the same time, once it's done, I kind of distance myself, but till that moment, I'm into it. And there's a little story behind this work. So this was the time when I kind of see a lot of news. I read a lot of news just to understand things around and to know about things that happens around us, or the space or the place or the world that we live in. And it was very unfortunate to be reading about the Syrian refugee crisis and people drowning in boats. And it was at the same time that it's a very common thing in India for kids to play in monsoon and create these paper boats and enjoy. There's a joy in those paper boats in India for kids, for adults, for everyone, and it's kind of a very cultural thing, I would say. It's surprising how you ask anyone in India and they would know how to fold a paper boat. But at the same time, so I had this visual going on my television where there's hundreds of people drowning in a boat in the middle of the sea, and then there's this visual parallelly where I see some of the kids just outside my house enjoying monsoon and creating paper boats. And so there was that contradiction in my head visually. At the same time, the whole idea around this joy with this paper boat, whereas there's such miserable and horrified visuals of people drowning to save their lives that I was watching. And that's when that whole thing triggered and this work came into being. That is the time when I decided this is what I wanted to do for my solo show in UK. And it was also a very political statement that I was putting out to the system, to people in humanity in general of what we are doing to ourselves as humans, as a lot of countries like UK and Germany, they were struggling with their decisions of bringing in these people to their country, so that was the first time I installed this piece. I did this piece called Bloody Boats in 2016. Um, and soon after that, in 2017, I moved to Canada myself, and it completely changed how I started looking at immigration, how I started looking at migration experience, as I myself was a migrant, and I was experiencing things in a very different way. The fact that when I did this work, I was personally not involved, or I had distanced myself, but then as I started living the immigrant life myself, it came back to me. It came back to me when I was in Canada, and I just realized it's just the story of anyone and everyone living in this country, and it's not just restricted to any single person. Although I completely uh, acknowledge the fact that a refugee and their experiences are totally and extremely different from individuals like myself who make this conscious decision to move to another country. It's not forcibly made. It's a conscious decision that I make. And there are still those struggles which are involved in making your life that you're thinking to in this new home of yours, bringing in new people, new relationships. um, and as you said, like those fundamental and things like multiplicity, I think I'm never satisfied with this work. I just want to go bigger and massive with this piece. So this specific photo, this photo is from 2019 Nuit Blanche exhibit at Gladstone Hotel. And the following photographs you will see, this is something that I had installed, and then for the first time I was doing this experiment for letting the audience come in and be a part of it. So as we know, Nuit Blanche is an overnight festival in Toronto. It's a huge festival. There's art all across city of Toronto, and I had about 4,000 people coming into this space. Wow, times before pandemic, right? As you take me to
Yeah.
this photo, it feels like a dream now. Yeah, so I had like 4,000 people stepping into this space, creating paper boats, writing their stories on, having those conversations right in the center in the gallery space, and adding their paper boats to the installation. So it was overwhelming, but at the same time very satisfying to see how everyone responded to this installation for the first time. I'd never done this before. Um, so in one night it just changed from being just my work. It was just everyone's work out there. There were 4,000 people who may have taken photos with this piece and installed like put them out on social media and called their own piece. So that joy of seeing them interacting with it, intervening with the piece, at the same time, like it was I must agree, it was disturbing to see your work getting destroyed to some extent, because there were people who also were pulling things out from the wall, and that was clearly their expression, that was clearly their feeling when they first saw this work, and I respect that. I just felt that I wasn't quite ready to take that on, but this work has completely changed my perspective towards how I see my practice to be these days. I since then have moved into more of audience engaged works, co-creating work with communities, and bringing in people and their lived experiences and stories into my work through different mediums. Which is not just this one installation, but even with other digital platforms and mediums that I'm kind of constantly exploring with, I try to and tend to bring in that level of engagement into my work and call it a co-creative process rather than just my individual artwork.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's so great that from that you are mentioning how at the same time there was the first time that you were like inviting the audience to interact with your work, and you were kind of also at the same time shocked because you didn't know exactly what was going to happen, and then but at the same time moving forward, you realize that this is also something that you want to keep doing.
Right.
So it is unpredictable what the audience might even do with the work, right?
Mhm.
And how the form, the shape of the or yeah, of the whole project could become something completely different from what you envisioned. But at the same time, I see so much joy of you bringing and allowing people to make this work also something of their own. That it's fascinating. I think that artists they really need to take like these risks, and you step out of your comfort zone of creating something beautiful and controlled and completely designed, and which is amazing. But then when you bring people to that element, well, the shape is going to change. It's not going to be clean. It's not going to be controlled. It's going to become something else, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. So I'm so excited that you were able to take that chance and to live that, to actually realize, well, this is what I want to do. This is how I would like to keep moving forward, because it's that energy, the one that it's actually nurturing right now your practice. So it's wonderful. And as I see, and as I mentioned before, like the multiplicity, iteration, repetition, it's something that it creates almost like a snowball effect, right? It's like
Yeah.
start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you keep adding the energy of the people. And I wonder, like when people were writing their stories or and then folding this in paper boats, uh, have you kept all these boats? Have you read all those stories? What's been your, I don't know how you feel about that, like reading other people's experiences and then realizing like, oh wow, this is going beyond your own lived experience and touching other people.
Yeah. So it's funny how some of my space in the home that I live in, but some of my space in the closet is still full of these boats. Whatever I could retrieve from the show, I have kept them, and I often try and figure out a way to better archive these stories. Some are readable, some are not. Some are just drawings. There are kids who just have drawn something beautifully on it, and not too much text. So it's kind of different ways of people expressing, and different ages, different demographics that could be a part of this show. I've had people come and tell me, that they were the ones who traveled in boats all the way to Canada. I've
Wow.
had some elders come and speak to me how this work brings back their memories of travel. So it has been really heartfelt and emotional at times. However, the kind of person I am, I try to often kind of make that distance. It just gets too much to kind of get into it and then try and work on a piece. But yeah, I'm going to try and figure out some better ways of archiving and saving these stories in the future.
Absolutely. No, and I mean they're still in your heart, and you have read all of them, and you have kept them, and I think that impact on any artist must be, yeah, like life changing, like to see how your work it's really going beyond your own lived experiences and your own expectations, right? And
Mhm.
that's wonderful. And I just want to share with everyone that for Toronto's Year of Public Art 2021, the program of ArtworxTO, in which I'm the curator of the West Cultural Hub in Etobicoke. We're going to have this project getting bigger, growing in a beautiful space. And also, I want to share with everyone part of the work that you also have been developing on a digital realm that actually comes directly from the bloody boats.
Mhm.
So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share a little bit of that while you, Ashtaka, let us know what's been that exploration, and how the pandemic kind of triggered you to go in and delve into all this technology, and what are your expectations now that we're working towards the ArtworxTO exhibition in the fall, and that we know that this project is growing and getting bigger?
Mhm.
So let me find, how can I share my screen? For some reason, I don't see that page. Let me just, okay, while.
I can start speaking about the work in the meantime.
Yes, yes, go ahead, and I'll see how can I share my screen and show that window specifically.
Sounds good. So as I've been saying that, I just found this process of co-creation and, engaging the audience on a broader scale. It was just before pandemic that I had this huge show and response through Nuit Blanche, having bloody boats displayed at Gladstone Hotel and having 4,000 people or maybe more come and engage with it. So it was right before the pandemic that I had, I was so into that co-creation process, and pandemic happened and it just changed everything. I couldn't have those large scale interactive or exhibits any longer. I had to figure out different ways to engage and bring in people into my process. And that's when I tried my hands-on with some of these digital platforms and technology that exists out there. And virtual reality was one that grabbed my attention, and I was totally into it because it just allowed me to be free, as the kind of person I like to be, and explore and experiment and not think of what the result would look like, or if it doesn't have to be extraordinary right away. I could just take baby steps and figure things out. So this piece instantly came out of Bloody Boats, an extension of that. It's created in virtual reality using the Oculus Quest. It's a gadget that you wear on your eyes, and there are those gears that you use, and you move around and create in space. It's crazy because there's no logic around physics and gravity or anything. The whole space around you is your canvas, and that's how you look at it. There are some inbuilt softwares that come free to work with. So this was created in Tilt Brush, which is by Google, and it allows you to experiment with different kinds of brush, different kinds of paints. All of these movements that you see. It also gives you those inbuilt cameras that you could use to video cam the existing piece in the space and build these videos into it. So that's how this work was created. And I'm still kind of exploring this whole space, even with my day job at ArtworxTO. We've been doing some amazing augmented reality projects, and that's an extension of a similar digital technology that goes hand in hand with VR or virtual reality that I'm also trying my hands on with. But yeah, so out of the need to engage audience or to bring in people to co-create a piece, I kind of moved into this digital realm. I also was fortunate enough to get a grant from Canada Council early on and do live sessions on Facebook. So I would go live on Facebook every Sunday for an hour and create in real time and asked questions and engaged with the audience. So their response kind of built in my works. And those are those little 16 videos that you can see on my website later on. It's called Storytelling in a Pandemic using virtual reality. So yeah, that's my beginning and the shift into, I have never been stuck with one medium. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I constantly jump from one to another. And the moment I feel this is something I want to do, I kind of just get into it and just try and make it or scale up as much as I can. So with ArtworxTO and that opportunity, thanks to Claudia and City of Toronto, I am trying to build some amazing works for you to see and experience and bring an audience, even in a pandemic, to experience it. Even if it's at your own home space, even if it's at a distance. I wish I could engage with people and bring them into my story and have our story out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's the plan. It hasn't been easy for anyone to try to continue their projects and their plans, but we are optimistic that we will be able to have a wonderful show in which Ashtaka will expand this amazing project, and we're going to be able to see the bloody boats in paper boats, but we're also going to look at the work in a virtual realm, and also we are exploring ways in which we can bring this project on a larger scale as well. So it is all very, very exciting. So Ashtaka, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure again to talk to you, to be able to share your practice with this amazing audience. And I think that within the framework of happening, it's great for people to actually look at this work. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that could resonate with your stories as an immigrant, myself as well, as a curator as well, that is also part of that journey. So when I look at your work, I feel immediately so connected, because it is something that we all lived through, and that, yeah, like those are kind of the points that you start connecting. And when you look at work that really kind of talks about different feelings or situations that you have been living, I don't know, I find that very, very, I don't know, it lifts up your spirit. I don't know, it creates something very good inside, right? It feels good.
Thank
So
you.
thank
Thank
you
you so much.
no, thank you again for sharing, and for Muse Arts for the invitation. I want to just give a little bit of time and see if we have some questions from the audience. I don't know if Paola or someone that from Muse Arts is there, and you can let us know if there are any questions. Okay. Well, I don't see questions coming up right now. Okay, we do have a question over here. So what is the best way to connect with you, Ashtaka? We know that there are going to be a lot of people that maybe they want to be part of this project. What would be a good way to connect?
I'm usually quite responsive on my social media, either Instagram or Facebook, but also through my email, which is just my first name, Akshata, KSHATAPNX@gmail.com. I can put that in the chat if that's easy. But yeah, I'm easily reachable on social media channels or through an email.
Okay, that's great. That's wonderful. And same with me. You can reach out, over my social media. My Instagram account is under my name. And yeah, I'll be happy to connect with more people, with artists. And thank you all. Okay, we have another question. I have seen the boat project before. Can you tell me a little bit about the name?
Yeah, okay. I've always titled it Bloody Boats, just for the sake of the story behind it, the inspiration behind it. And it's very literal in its title, like bloody for blood and red, and boats. So it's called Bloody Boats.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess that name also comes from what you already kind of share with us about like the whole refugee situation, and kind of that moment where a lot of people is actually drowning, trying to escape from their country. So it is a very critic statement. I find like very critical, and it's very nice. So as it's a beautiful project, there are some layers of, there are many struggles, and there are many other things that are not easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. Well, thank you for that question. Very, very, that's awesome. Do we have any more questions from the audience at this point? No. Okay. Well, I think that we're ready to wrap up. And again, thank you, Ashtaka. Thank you, Muse Arts. And I want to remind you that next week we'll keep the conversation with another artist, same hour. So please join and keep following happening programming, so you can, join and stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you, Paula, Muse Arts team. And I'm super thrilled to be part of this beautiful project of yours. So thank you for having me tonight.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.